Hey everyone, I'm Lisa Hutchison with Tikkun Global, and there is breaking news in Israel. And so we wanted to jump on here live. And so we have CEO of Tikkun Global, Ron Cantor, with us to break it all down. Because, wow, Ron, a political earthquake has happened in Israel today. Can you tell us what is going on?
Yes, it is absolutely crazy. And everybody in Israel woke up this morning to the news that it looks like the coalition in Israel um, might be falling apart. So let me just give a little bit of
Wow.
background.
Yeah.
Uh, Many people know that Israeli politics are different than American
Mm.
politics, and even different than Britain and a lot of other parliamentary countries where you typically have a majority party. We never have a majority party. It's always a coalition of parties who spend months hating each other, even within the parties, because they're jockeying for position, because their slots one through whatever. And then suddenly they have to all get along. The other big difference is that in our system of government, like for instance, Joe Biden or Donald Trump wins the presidency of America, then they look for the best and the brightest people to fill out their cabinet. It does not work like that here. So here, your Secretary of Defense isn't somebody who is necessarily an expert in defense. It's somebody who may be the leader of the second party with the second most votes, who has no background in defense whatsoever, or the trade minister or the finance minister. And so you end up divvying up these responsibilities to the leaders and the number twos and number threes in different parties, and it's never based on their expertise. So the coalition leader, that doesn't mean that they're the prime minister is Naftali Bennett. The one who brought the coalition together is Yair Lapid. But the coalition leader, I think that's what they call it, or the Yoshev Rosh, the chairman of the coalition, that would be a woman by the name of Edith Salman. Now, she's a newcomer to politics, and she won a seat on the right wing Yamina, just the 7 seats that Naftali Bennett won. It's a bizarre situation where somebody with such a small number of seats ended up being the prime minister. And that is only because the other parties were so desperate to form a government without Benjamin Netanyahu that they needed Bennett so badly, even though his party is considered far right, that they let him be prime minister. Now, so Edith Salman is part of that party, the Yamina party, and she's got a pretty powerful job. It's what we would call the whip in the U.S. Congress, but she's the leader of the coalition, or the chairman of the coalition. And today she announced that she's resigning from the government. Now, what does that mean?
Wow.
If there were 70 seats in a 120 member Knesset, that wouldn't mean anything at all. If there were 65 seats, that wouldn't mean anything at all. If there were 62 seats, it would be concerning, but it would be okay. But because this coalition is the smallest coalition that can be, and I don't know, I can't remember one so small, 61 seats, it basically says that the ruling coalition no longer has a majority.
Yeah.
It's a political earthquake.
Wow. And did anybody see it coming? I mean, was this a just out of nowhere?
She has been sending some signals, but everybody sends signals because what you have is a coalition of people that they're not natural or strange. They are strange bedfellows, so to speak, meaning that some of them are more aligned. Like you have several right-wing parties. You have Avigdor Lieberman's Israel, Our Home. You have Gidon Saar's party, the New Hope. You have the Yamina party, Naftali Bennett's. I think together they make 21 seats. And they pretty much see eye to eye on many things. Then you have in the middle Yair Lapid, who's proven, they will label him a leftist. He's definitely not a leftist. He's not super right wing. Just watching him govern as the foreign minister for the past year, I would call him center right. And then you have Benny Gantz, who's also center right. But then we have 2 left wing parties. the Meretz party, super left wing, and the Labor Party, mild left wing, or just left wing. And then we have 3 members that are part of the Arab Ram party, which nobody ever imagined that they would join the government. So they're always making noise. They're always not happy about something because it's uncomfortable being in a coalition where the things that are so dear to you, whether you're part of the Arab Ram party or the right wing New Hope party, you can't really do. But in my estimation, in my naive estimation, it seemed to me that they were doing a pretty good job of governing after having no government for about a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Then we had the short government of Bibi Netanyahu and Benny Gantz. They were getting things done. They were doing things for the Israeli people. They passed a budget. I don't know if our hearers know it, but we have not had a budget since 2018. And that means that emergency things get funded, but things like welfare, homeless, people, people on the fringes of society, there's nothing for them. Wow. So they did do some good things. Yair Lapid, in my opinion, while we might not agree politically on everything, I think I'm to the right of him. He has worked harder than any foreign minister I've ever seen. I've been watching Israeli politics since 1985. I've never seen a more empowered and passionate foreign minister. Okay, getting back to your question. Did anyone see this coming?
Yeah.
Last week, she accused basically said the health minister, Horowitz, could not continue in his position. And it was over an issue that really wasn't a big deal, over allowing hospitals to have bread that people to bring bread into hospitals during Passover. So for the most part, hospitals and hotels in Israel are kosher. And so I think, again, this is something I didn't even know about until today, but I think in 2020, our Supreme Court said it was legal, because 20% of Israelis are Arabs. It was legal for people to bring in non-kosher food during Passover into a hospital. And in my opinion is I keep kosher, but it's just not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And
one thing that I saw, just sorry to interrupt, but I just like to share the quote from Edith Silman, where this seems to be at least what she's saying is at the heart of her issue. She said, "I will not abet the harming of the Jewish identity of the state of Israel and the people of Israel. I will continue to try to persuade my friends to return home and form a right-wing government. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Another government can be formed in this Knesset." So it seems like that may have been what she was telegraphing last week by this thing over the bread.
You wouldn't bring down a government over that. It's bread. Not now. What, in my opinion, is she was using that to give her, like, she had already decided in her heart she was done, but she needed a pretext to say this is the reason why I'm stepping down. Now there are other things that were bothering her, like there are issues over who was a Jew. The rabbis have had the ultra-Orthodox rabbis have had that under their authority since the beginning of the state. They get to decide if somebody wants to convert to Judaism, they have to go through Orthodox Judaism. They can't go through Reform, which is a very liberal form of Judaism. And so they were making some changes there that was bothering her. Other things were bothering her. Again, she got elected as a right-wing politician. People were protesting outside of her house, probably still until today, because they're angry that she's part of this government.
Yeah, I read where she had to have some kind of bodyguard, like extra bodyguard, even now, because of all of this. Yeah, so
and I'll tell you,
definitely a lightning rod.
And what's kind of funny, but these are from her own people. These will be from her supporters that are attacking her, people who are on the right, because they're mad that she is in a coalition with left-wing parties. So again, and I understand those people they didn't vote for her to join a left-wing party. But on the other hand, who wants another election and who doesn't want a budget? And Yair Lapid, he just met with the foreign ministers of America, Bahrain, the UAE, and Morocco in the
And
desert
Egypt,
last week.
yeah.
And Egypt. Thank you. I
Yeah.
mean, that's unheard of, Lisa. That
Yeah.
now it did. I have to give credit where it's due. It began with Trump and Bibi, but they have grabbed hold of the Abraham Accords and they're moving it forward at lightning speed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy how much progress. So that's why I'm a little.
Yeah, sorry.
That's
It's
why I'm a
just been
little.
so impressive that this government, I mean, they've hung in there, what is it, like 10, 11 months
Yeah.
now? And I mean, they have been making incredible headway with their neighbors. I mean, with all these meetings with the Arab nations, all of that. So to have this come up at this moment,
Yeah.
it's just really, I mean, that's just astonishing. And you mentioned Bibi. So just to jump over into that, do you have theories as to now what does this mean? What
Yeah.
is
Well,
Bibi
first
coming
of all,
back? What's happening?
it's really interesting because he made a video this morning and he looked really rough. So he must have just woken up and heard the news and was very excited. I'm sure he knew it was coming, but in Hebrew, I'm welcoming you home. You've come home to your roots, to the right wing. Let's form a government together. In truth, she is more than likely thinking about her future as a politician. Because here's the problem with her present situation. She has a powerful role in a center right with a few left wing government. But when it's over, she's not going to have a home because the people who voted for her aren't going to vote for her again. So by jumping back, she's now joining Likud. She is leaving Yamina and she's joining Likud. It's believed that she has an agreement with Likud that if they can form a government together, she'll be the health minister. So this is somewhat self-motivating. She's thinking about her career. By the way, she would not be the first politician to do that. She would not be the first politician to bring down a government doing that. But here's the ironic thing is that when she formed this government with Bennett and Lapid and others, she was harassed. I mean, like we just talked about it. But when she talked about being physically attacked at a gas station, Bibi Netanyahu suggested that she was making it up.
Wow.
So that's a pretty powerful accusation, and now she's running back into his arms. So in politics, somebody can be your mortal enemy one day and your best friend the next. It's one of the reasons why I am not in politics.
It also really seems like that's a hallmark of Netanyahu is, I mean, how many of these people has he had, political relationships with, and then he does something, throws them under the bus.
The entire reason that this government was formed is because these three right-wing parties, many of whom are to the right of Bibi, will not work with him anymore. He's broken too many promises. And if he had been willing to step aside, Likud would have easily formed a government. And even his people in his own party were very upset with him that he would not let go of power. He's very popular amongst the base, but there are other capable ministers in Likud, such as Nir Barkat, the former mayor of Jerusalem. So that's where we are now.
Do you think, will there be another election?
Well, I see 4 possibilities, and we wrote about this on ritg.org. It's also on my website at roncantor.com. And the 4 possibilities, I'm just going to go to it in case I get confused, remind myself of what I wrote. But the 4 possibilities are this. Number 1 would be nothing. Nothing happens. Nothing changes. They just continue to govern as a minority government. Now, how long can you do that? Well, you can do that until next elections, unless something happens that prevents you from continuing. So what would happen? So like once you form a government, that's your government. Even if you lose people in the coalition, you're down to 50 seats, unless one of 2 things happens. One is that it is written in their coalition agreement. What does that mean? That means that when these guys came together a year ago, they put a lot of things in writing to ensure certain things. One of the things that Lapid was probably concerned about is that Naftali Bennett would call for new elections just when it was his turn to switch with Lapid. They're supposed to switch after 2 years. And so in the coalition, it's written that if Bennett does that, Lapid immediately becomes prime minister until the next elections. It's also written that if there is not a budget passed, then the coalition will fall and they go to new elections. That will be a year, roughly in sometime next year. Now, when that budget doesn't pass, because they don't have the votes anymore, they now have only got 60 votes, they need at least 61 votes. When it doesn't pass, then the government will collapse. Lapid will immediately become prime minister and will go to new elections within the next 6 months. Now, one other thing could happen is, so let's say they're going to pass this budget, and I hope I'm not losing people here, but they're going to pass this budget a year from now. And let's suppose somebody in one of the Arab parties, there are 6 Arabs in the Knesset that are not in the government. There's the Ram party, but there's 6 other Arabs that would never join a coalition. But maybe they'll say, you know what? We don't want Bibi in the right wing to be prime minister again. So we're going to go ahead and vote for the budget, even though we're against the government. That could happen. So scenario number 1 is that they do nothing and they just wait for the budget vote and then the government collapses. Scenario number 2 is that the present opposition forms their own coalition. That would mean that Likud, the largest party in the Knesset, roughly 30 seats, I think, that they would go ahead, they could do this. They could do this any day. They could have done this a month ago if you have the seats. Now, if 61 seats are in the ruling party, then you obviously can't form a coalition. You need 61 seats. There's only 120. But now they've got another one with Edith Silman, but that only makes 53. Why? Because there are 6 Arabs that will never join them. That's what's called the joint list. Some of them are communists. Some of them are Arab nationalists. They're not going to join an Israeli government. And so that means that with 53 seats, they've got to find 8 more. So even if Bennett said, you know what, the writing's on the wall, let's go back to Bibi, that's still only 59 seats. So they would need to find at least 2 more seats. I don't know where they'd find them. So the third option is that is that the Likud leads a vote to dissolve the government. Now, in order to dissolve the government, you need 61 votes. So they have 53. So you would again need to get those Arabs to vote with you or other parties that are in the government, which is unlikely. So the most likely scenario at this point is that the government will collapse when there is the next budget vote in a year.
One thing, just because I haven't been studying Israeli politics as long as you have, but in the season that I have, it seems like there can always be a surprise. So could this possibly be that Edith Silman, like it's like a ploy, like she is really going to come back to the coalition. She's just wanting a little power play moment to get what she wants, and they'll beg her to come back and she will. Is that possible?
Well, I actually wrote that in the blog today, and that's what I thought earlier in the day. But I've been watching the news all day, and I think it's pretty sure at this point she's gone. Okay. Apparently, she was already in touch with the leaders of 3 other parties in the opposition as much as a week ago. And there's even a rumor that one of the super right-wing politicians, Smotrich, actually wrote her letter of resignation for her. Okay. You know, keep in mind, she's a first-year Knesset member. It's her first term. Wow. So she's very young. She's very sharp, and people, you know, she was very popular in Israel, but again, she had offended her base. There is one other option that I didn't bring up, and that would be if Bibi decides to retire. If Bibi, and now that would be very unlikely because he's on the verge of, in his mind, he's right on the verge of coming back. And he is a deal maker. He is a horse trader. I mean, he is a politician's politician. So in his mind, he just loves that he's back in the headlines, making speeches and rallying the troops. But if he decides to retire, because by the way, he is on trial for corruption.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, he's going to be convicted. I mean, the evidence is pretty damning,
Mm.
and I mean, there are people who've been forced to testify against him, and I won't get into all the things that he's accused of, but they're not good. You know, the most significant of which is that when he was prime minister and communications minister, that he made the deal with the owner of Bezik. Bezik is our
Mm.
one of our big telecommunication company, and they own a newspaper outlet called Walla. And the deal was this: Bibi, as the communications minister, would make a few decisions that would profit this guy a lot of money in
Mhm.
exchange for positive coverage in his newspaper, which
Wow.
then changes public opinion. So you have reporters saying that we were barred from reporting what we wanted to report.
Wow.
We were told you can't do this. We would write stories that were negative of the Netanyahu family, and they would just be pulled. And so that's a pretty serious thing. Even though Bibi didn't actually make money, he got the great coverage, and the other guy profited some $500 million based on the decisions that were made in his favor. That's the accusation, allegedly, I should say. I don't want Bibi coming to my door tomorrow. Allegedly, these are accusations, and they're being tried in a court of law. So 6 months from now, a year from now, he might go to jail. Or he might make a deal. He almost had a deal made without going Attorney General Mandelblit, who basically the deal said, listen, you retire from politics, you get convicted, you get a slap on the wrist, you don't go to jail.
Mm.
And it looked like Bibi was willing to sign that. People will argue with me about that, but then Mandelblit, that time was running out because Mandelblit's term was ending at the end of February, and time ran out before they could get it done. So if he retires, and let me just say this, Bibi Netanyahu is a historic figure in Israeli politics. And I know he is beloved in the evangelical world. He from the time I first saw him on CNN in 1991, as Elon and I were sitting in bed watching on CNN the Gulf War. That, for you young people, that was a long time ago. The first Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein attacked Kuwait. And here's this young, good-looking, articulate ambassador to the UN from Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Well, he goes on to become prime minister a few years ago, then comes back. He becomes Israel's longest-serving prime minister. But in the past few years, he has not been the man that he once was. He has been a man desperate to hang on to power, willing to stab anybody in the back to maintain that control. And that's why the most brightest and talented people who believe as he believes have left the party to form their own parties, and they don't trust him anymore. Having said that, let me see if I can finish this sentence. If he retires, then what will happen is that they'll have a new leader in the Likud, and a new government will be formed probably within a few weeks, because that he is the thing that's preventing all these other right-wing guys from coming on. And they've said, if Bibi retires, we'll work with Likud. But right now, you've got 21 Knesset members who will not work with Likud, the largest party in the Knesset, because they don't trust the leader. So between you and me, Lisa, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it seems unlikely. Bibi is not ready yet to let go of that, but it would be a game changer if he did.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's where we're going. But we'll see. You never know with Israeli politics. That's
No,
the
you don't.
awesome thing. It's never a dull moment. So, well, thank you so much for that insight for everybody. I'm sure that was really helpful for those who love Israel and want to understand what's happening there, especially in the politics of things. So thank you all for joining us, and please be sure to subscribe to this channel. And we hope to bring you these on occasion up ahead as the news breaks. We hope to see you then. So see you next time.
Good to see you all, and God bless you.